Hey, real quick, before we get into that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any marketing nuggets. Enjoy the show.
But I think for the most part, a business would need like a brand guide, a website, maybe a social media guide. If you have that, it kind of sets you up to have good graphics in the future.
Hi, I'm Josh Owens. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. I'm joined by Grayson Gravras, or Garvis, whichever you prefer, freelancer and also brand content manager at Common House. Thanks so much for joining me, man. We're here to talk about graphic design.
Yeah.
And I think you know a thing or two about graphic design.
A few things.
You know, you've been doing it for a little bit.
For a little while. Yeah.
Well, why is it important to invest in graphic design for a business?
I think there's a lot of different reasons, but I think the main one would be to like differentiate yourself from, other businesses and just have like a really good,
Tell me about
good, I don't know, sense of style for your brand.
Yeah.
That's very distinctive.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it makes yourself memorable as a business. And I think having consistent branding and graphic design will make people will be able to recognize your brand even if you don't have your logo.
When it comes to investing in your brand, what is it, why, like the business that you work for, how did that elevate their brand, the graphic design that you did for them?
I think graphic design can really set the tone for your brand. Like if you're a luxury brand, you can have you can use a more luxurious style, or if you're like fun and weird, you can, be that way. And I think it just kind of depends on the brand. And I think if you just have good quality graphic design, just things are in order, things like the margins, all that stuff is just kind of like, if it's done well, people notice. And I think it looks nice. And yeah.
I guess because my thing about it too is I feel like a lot of people are always asking the question well, how much should I invest in graphic design? Should I should I hire a designer? How much should I hire? What do I do? What's that sweet spot for you that you feel like a lot of businesses should target when it comes to investing in graphic design?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting industry because I feel like it's very subjective on what people need, and businesses have different needs and all sorts of things. So it's kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly how to go about doing stuff like that. But I think for the most part, a business would need a brand guide, a website, maybe a social media guide. That's more branding than graphic design. But it's I think if you have that, it kind of sets you up to have good graphics in the future.
Yeah, because I guess
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, not to cut you off. I mean,
No, that's all good.
But what are some of the good starting points for a business when it comes to their graphic design? Where should they start? What are some of the things you'd be okay, definitely do that. Don't do this.
Yeah, I think you need to set your goals. You need to know what you want out of getting these graphics. So that could be like raising income or getting more followers on Instagram or selling a certain product, and then you go from there. And then because it's if you don't have a goal, what are you creating something for? Because there's this graphic design. People are it's not art, it's functional. Art isn't functional. So, but graphic design is. So it's just kind of, you have to have a reason to make it, I guess. Well, that's not true. I mean, you can have fun graphics, but for a business perspective, you should have goals behind each graphic.
Because when you're setting those goals for your what are because a lot of times I know everyone always says set your goals, but what goals really, what about those goals, how, what should business owners be thinking of if they're keeping design in mind? Okay, well, what is a good goal, a bad goal, for you from a designer perspective? What are you looking for in a business?
I don't think there's any bad goals. I think it just depends on what you what your business needs. So it's I guess for every post on Instagram, I would say should have a CTA or a call to action, and that could that's the goal even, so just to kind of push people towards something that you want them to do. Because it's, I guess for business, it's all about business.
Yeah. Oh, you say business is all about business?
Business is all about business.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Take that quote and remember it.
Business is all about business.
That's right. Yeah. I love it. Well, when you're talking about also the other places they should start, what comes after that? After you have your goal, what are you looking for next?
Yeah, so I think, you make your brand guide, you make your social media guide, I think a website is really useful. I mean, that's not it's in the same realm, but you can have graphics that and design that matches everything there.
What about like I know a lot of people talk about like having kind of like a guide for their brand. Do you think a brand guide's worth having? Or like...
I think it is probably the most useful thing that you could have. So like, I mean, I've noticed this with a lot of small businesses that like there's one person doing everything, and
yeah,
it's
that's a very common thing.
Yeah, it's very common, and it's very hard for people to like hand off tasks to like new employees if a business is growing. And so if you have a brand guide, and like let's say you've been doing social media for forever, and you know all the little details, all the weird little quirks about your brand that you like, but then this new person has no idea, and then that turns into like a micromanaging thing, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
So if you have a brand guide, you can hand it off to them. They can just, any designer can just take that and just, match your style, and that way like more people can work on it, and there's more room to like expand and grow, because you could even have like more people, or like if you send off, if you have like a contractor come in, for like video or whatever you need, you just here's the brand guide, match it, and it's so it's wonderful.
What elements usually go in, like should be going into that? Because I feel like I see a lot of brand guides, they're all like all over the place. Like some of them have like, some of them go into like tons of detail. Some of them are like, what are the things that like, is there too much? Is there not what is like, what's the sweet spot? Like what should you be adding?
So I've seen a lot of different brand guides. I think the bigger companies like Pepsi and like, I don't know, all those Charmin. They just have
Coca-Cola,
all
Keep going. I can keep going if you want.
Many.
7 Up.
Yeah.
That's in Pepsi too. Wait, is Pepsi is a company? Well, anyway, keep going. Sorry, I'm distracting you. Yeah, I just want to name company.
I think they just go so in depth that it's insane. They're like 50 plus pages, and it's just like why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
So I think for a smaller business, you don't need all that. Like, I think it can get redundant and just like too complicated. And it's just like, make it simple. Because I think a lot of people look way too deeply into branding and stuff, because it's like, they're like, oh, every single detail. I mean, the details are nice, but it's just like, it's not necessary a lot of times. And it's not that deep. Like, But so for a brand guide, I would say you definitely need a logo, which is, I guess separate from the, but it's there.
It's essential. Yeah.
It's essential. You got to have a logo.
Yeah.
And then you have to have like your fonts, like how you use each one and examples of that. So like, let's say, I don't know, you can have this font, do it real big, for a title or something. And then you can have like a paragraph, like specifically saying how to use that. And all that, same thing with colors. You can have like your brand colors, but then you need to include the hex codes so that a designer can just take the exact color. Because it's like when you're transferring colors or screenshots and things, it always changes slightly. So,
that's a good point. Yeah. Always have the code.
Yeah, exactly. And then, if you have the code, it's the same consistently throughout everything. You can also have like tone of voice in there, which I think is really important. I guess that's not specifically design wise, but I think like every brand has a tone of voice, like one maybe more serious, one maybe more fun and silly, and you just kind of have to write that down, just write it out, and then so people can take that and be able to
make it happen. I love it. That's wild. And so when you get all of these elements together, is that kind of like the end from that point as far as like what you would recommend to small businesses? Or is there other things that you think a small business should incorporate beyond that?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think so. That's the brand guide. But if you have if you're doing a lot of social media, I think a social media guide would be useful.
Interesting.
Because I think social media guides can become outdated pretty fast because social media just goes so fast.
Yeah.
Like 2 days, you're already outdated,
Okay.
So I think like a simple social media guide that I think that's where people go wrong sometimes. It's like they make a social media guide that's really specific about things, and then it's like, you pay all this money and it's already outdated.
Yeah,
so I think, just like a general one, it's like you should post stories like this in this style, like use these fonts for this, use this font.
That's so interesting. A lot of people I don't think do that. I think like sometimes you see like a lack of cohesion on people's social media when it comes to design.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think also maybe having templates, I think that's what I've done a lot of that with some like previous work I've done where you just make like batch posts. So you can make like 5 or 6 Instagram templates for what like an Instagram post should look like.
And they can just swap in like the
you just
pictures
swap out the photos,
like
or
that.
you know, just do. You can like recreate, you know, that, but in different ways.
Yeah.
I think also deciding what type of content you want to share is really important.
Yeah.
For social media, and then also setting yourself up on like a social media scheduler, I think is really important because it really gives you that time to like work on what you need to. Because I think, you know, creating things and posting as you go.
Yeah.
Just like it adds up. Social media doesn't stop, and it's a never ending thing that
you guys feed that engine.
you have to feed the engine, and it drives me crazy. But, so I think with the scheduler, you can like, what I like to do, I like to schedule out as far in advance as possible so that you can give yourself the time to post. Because I think if you're rushing it, people can tell because it's just like, it doesn't look good, it's sloppy, but it's like, it's intentional. And like, if you sit down, do the time, do what you need to do, schedule it, then while that's being posted automatically, you can continue working on what's next. So,
that's awesome. I mean, well, and I think definitely what you're saying. A lot of people, I'd be, you know, at least a lot of business we've worked with, that's a big crucial step. I think a lot of people are missing. You know, but also from a design perspective, when you're talking about doing design, what I always come back to the fact that like, how are people, you know, how do you decide whether or not like it's time to invest, you know, it's time to spend the money, you know, to upgrade, you know? I feel like everybody's always wondering like, you know, where do I fit in? Where do I slot in? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think if you just want to like level up, you know, because I think doing it yourself is good, and I don't know, like if you are fine with that, that's fine. But if you really want to like elevate your brand and just bring some like oomph to it, if that makes sense, to just have that professional touch, and like I think people really notice when that happens, because it's like, and it's, you know, maybe designers can help you curate your social media better, or like just like, you know, it all, you know, branding, every little detail counts, you know. I think, you know, you hand someone a business card that's very well done, with the nice textures and stuff, everything has been thought out. I think people notice that and they like it. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, you know, the last thing I'm curious too is like, you know, what is kind of the modern, you know, design, like, you know, is there something that businesses should be kind of pushing themselves to approach more, you know, with their design?
I think so. I think so I guess this is not design, but I would say for social media, reels is like video. Yeah. Everybody loves video.
Yeah.
I think social media platforms are pushing that. And so like on, let's say Instagram, if you push a reel, like it has the most engagements out of any other type of post. And so like, I guess including branding in your video content.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because like, that's a good point, is like, you know, also video coming so much more prevalent. Are you thinking about, because like how do you start curating, you know, I mean, the whole page on social media in a way is like design, right? So like, is there like, do you kind of give advice on how to like curate that actual page? Like, because especially now that video is becoming more popular, is it like pulling away from graphic design, or like, do you feel like
it's pulling away from it? I think it kind of goes hand in hand, because it's like Instagram is photo based, but also it's like now it's kind of both now. It's like the first thing you see on an account is the photos, and then you have to, you know, click on reels, you know, unless you're already in reels first. But I think design and reels go well together. But I think for design specifically, I think just being clear, like easy to read, like readability is super important, because it's like that. What's the point if you can't read it, you know? But so readability and just having things like aligned correctly, and just, you know, rule of thumb, I think. I don't know. Just kind of like, if it looks right, it's probably right. Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point, because like there is no like, is there like would you say there's a hard and fast rule for people to know about looking at their like especially their Instagram profile, TikTok profiles? Like, is there like a hard and fast rule about what does look right, or are you just
no,
do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, unless there's like the margins are off or something. Margins drive me crazy. I'm like, this is too close. I'm like, you need to.
Oh man. Stay in the margins.
Yeah, or if like something's cut off by the interface, you know.
Oh yeah. Because okay, well then that all has to lead me to the biggest question, which is,
what's your biggest question?
My biggest question.
What is it?
Is when it comes to being a business owner, biggest question. Thoughts on Canva?
Oh, I hate Canva. I
Wait,
hate it.
why do you hate Canva?
I hate it. I don't. Well, okay, I think that. I don't know. I feel like as a designer, I have to hate Canva.
And that's like a required rule.
It's like required almost. I think it's a really good tool for businesses to use. Like if you don't have access to a designer or you don't have the budget for it. So I think that it's very useful. Like I know a lot of people that use it that are doing well, and like they don't have to hire a designer, but that's my whole job is being hired to make things. So I think it can be limiting. I think a lot of people, I've seen people make logos on Canva. And it's like not a real logo because like 1,000 other people have the same logo. So it's interesting. Also, clients will come to me and they're like, "Can you make me this logo?" And I was like, "You have this logo," but they're like, "No, like, can you like?" So it's weird. They come to me with a Canva design and they're like, "Can you make this better?" And I'm like, "Okay." So
you have to like then transform the Canva design.
Yeah, or just like just move it and like. I don't know, just do little things to make it slightly different. Because it drives me crazy. Because it's like I've seen like logos.
But do you feel like that them coming to you with a logo already, is that worse because they're,
No, I think it's actually, well, I guess it's good to have a reference. So this is one thing. When you go to a graphic designer for work, you need to have your references. I always ask for references. So like with a logo, if I'm making a logo, what I'll do is I'm like, give me 2 references that you love, one that you hate, and then I kind of go from there. So then I'll like, or like if they have a Pinterest board of things that they like, I think just because it's like we can't read minds, know, and I think that's where a lot of client designer like
friction happens.
Yeah, because it's like what do you want? And they're like, I don't really know. You're the professional. You tell me. But it's like I can't read your mind. So then
interesting. So it's a lot of like you having to like step in, figure it out from there, and develop it. And then, because that's and that's the last thing we can talk about is, what are the besides that? Obviously, it's an important step. What are the other steps you would say like if you're getting ready to like do upgrade your design, wanting to hire a designer? What are the things that you can prepare for before getting into that?
Yeah. So I think having a clear vision in your head is something that is so valuable to
What do you mean by a clear vision?
So so you want to have a rebrand and you instead of coming to the designer and being like, go like just do what you do because you're the designer, they'll come back and they'll have a million revisions and it'll snowball into this like disaster because it's just there's no like boundaries there. There's too many ideas. So I think if you have, let's say if you have a Pinterest board with just a bunch like brand styles that you like and you hand that to me and I can go, okay, I can make something with this vibe and this style. And I think it's fine to like usually, okay, so if I'm making like a brand style, I think I'll have 2 or 3 options or two or 3 directions to go from, and then if they like I like this, then we'll go forward with that, and then kind of like narrow things down until we get to like a style guide that makes sense for that brand. But,
awesome, and then you kind of fit it together and make it happen. Interesting. I guess that's always the challenge too. Is like how once that kind of happens, they build their logo from there. Obviously logo's one step, but then like
other things.
How do you start to develop the other parts of it?
Yeah, I think it's very fun. You just kind of have to. I find it works out best if you just like sit down with them and just kind of like talk about it and just. I think for me, meeting the person, like if it's a small business and it's just like a one person thing and they're like, this is my business, this business is me. I think meeting that person and just like seeing what they're like or like. I don't know. I think also seeing people's houses, which is also not like it's like
my first step is to come to your house.
Yeah, I don't know.
Explore
I think it's just fun because you just kind of like see into that person's their style. And like
that's true.
Which is like
especially for like solo businesses.
For solo businesses, but you can't really do that all the time. That's kind of weird. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, hey,
or just like I don't know, just meeting with that person, talking with them, and just writing down ideas. There's a bunch of workshop. Top, you can workshop it out and just kind of narrow things down. And
I love that.
Kind of, I take a very fluid approach, I think, which is maybe not the best, but I think it's fun and it turns out all right.
Hey, as long as it turns out well, that's what matters. Great talking about design.
Yeah.
So tell everyone where you can find this, where they can find you on social media if they ever need design help or anything like that.
Yeah, you can find me at Haunted Boat on Instagram, or Haunted Design. That's my design account.
Awesome.
So yeah, you can just find me on Instagram there, and I have a lot of photography, and I think mostly they're kind of separated. So, but yeah.
Haunted Boat, find them now, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This episode of Make Marketing Make Sense is brought to you by Comfystone. If your business needs organic social media video content, video ads, or video podcasting, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, this is Make Marketing Make Sense.